dear students. How are you? Now you are going to enter in the 10th standard. Okay, but as you all know, there is a coronavirus which is there in our surrounding and in the nation. It is a pandemic. So we have to stay at home. When we have to stay at home, we have to do our studies. Okay, so what we will do, we'll start our studies by the online sessions. Now I am going to give you the videos and you are going to learn the biology and the chemistry through these videos. Hello Vidyavali students, are you getting? Chalo, we'll start with our lesson. uh, First of all, you all know that you are having physics, chemistry and bio, these three subjects, and in all 16 lessons are there in your science. Okay, so here we are going to start with the biology, the first lesson of biology, which is at the 6th number in your index, which is called as the life processes. First of all, what do you mean by life? If you know, if you see in our surrounding, you will observe there are many things. Okay, and in that things, are you getting which are the living things and which are the non-living things? How you are getting to know which are the living things and which are the non-living things? Are there any basic differences? Can anybody tell me the basic differences, or can you recall which you have studied in your previous standards? So let's first of all we'll see the basic difference of the living things and the non-living things. Here I will write living and here I will write non-living. Okay, so take one example. In our surrounding there is the stone. Suppose there is a stone which is there in your surrounding, which is there right from your childhood. You are now grown up. The size of that stone will be remain as it is. What does this mean? That the living things and the non-living things, there is a basic difference, that the living things are growing. If you see the plant which you have sown in your childhood, it is growing, but the stone which is there, it is as it is. So if you see that, basically you have to observe that. What do you mean by science? You have to observe and you have to, whatever conclusions are there, that you have to find by yourself. So the first conclusion is what? Living thing and non-living thing. In the living things, they are having growth, and the non-living things, they are non-growing, isn't it? Now the growth, how they are growing? They are growing by means of some structures into their body. What are that structures? That is nothing but the cell. If you observe the leaf of the plant, isn't it? If you observe the leaf of the paper, the leaf of the plant is having some specific structures into it, and the leaf of the paper is not having any specific structure into it. So that is nothing but the cell structure. Do you know what do you mean by cell? Cell is the basic unit of the life. If cell is present in any living thing, then that is the living thing, and if cell is absent, then that is the non-living thing. So that is the second difference, that the living things are having cellular structure or cell structure, isn't it? And non-living things are not having the cell structure. Very easy example. If you are saying stone, if you are saying sand, they are not having a specific structure. But when you are saying plant, when you are saying dog, when you are saying animals, they are having their own specific structure. So this is the second difference, that the living things are having cellular structure and non-living things are not having the cellular structure. Now we have to see the correlation between the cell structure and the growth. Now cell structure is there, but every cell has to grow. Now for growth something is required, and what is that? Something is required for the growth. If that is there into the body of that thing, then it is growing. So that is nothing but the food material. What is that? Food. So this is the basic difference, that living things are requiring the food and non-living things are not requiring the food, isn't it? If you are observing that there is a serving plate into your house and you are keeping the food items into that serving plate, isn't it? So that serving plate is getting that food material into itself. No, it is remaining as it is for the longer time. But in front of you, suppose your mother have kept something which you are liking. What will happen? You will immediately eat that, isn't it? Means what? You require the food material, and non-living things are not requiring the food material. Means what? For cellular structure, or the cellular structure is requiring the food material for the growth. As well as the next basic difference is that if you see, you are having nose for 2 minutes. If you close your nose, what will happen? You will suffocate, isn't it? Means what? You require the air, isn't it? And if there is a stone, you have covered that stone for more time, what will happen? It does not happen with anything with that stone, isn't it? So the stone is not requiring the air, means non-living things are not requiring the air, and living things are requiring the air, and the process of taking air into the body, that is called as the respiration, isn't it? And they do not respire. Next is that if you see, there is a pandemic of COVID-19, isn't it? And the government have told us to stay at home for more than 21 days. Is it possible for us to stay at a single place more than half an hour? No, we have to move here and there. If we will not move here and there, what will happen? Our body will get contract and our muscles will get contract. Means what? For every living being, the movement is necessary. But if you see, in case of non-living things, until and unless you change its place, it does not move. Means these non-living things are not moving. Okay, next is that living things. Suppose there is a doctor who is giving you the injection. What will happen? You will shout, ouch, isn't it? And the doctor, suppose that doctor gives injections to the stone. Does it anything happen? No, there is no any reaction from the stone. First of all, injection will not get inside of the stone, isn't it? But what will happen? Will get or will give some reaction onto that, isn't it? Or in the childhood, in the 4th, 5th standard, you are having one experiment that you have to put the pot of the plant near to your window and you have to observe to that plant. What you have observed? You have observed that the plant is growing towards the sunlight. Means what? There is some response, isn't it? We are giving some response to the stimulus. Some stimulus is given to you, some action is happening and you are giving the reaction. That is nothing but the response to stimulus that we are doing. That is the characteristic of living thing, isn't it? But non-living things are not giving any response to any stimulus, isn't it? Yes or no? Suppose this marker is there. I am holding this marker like this for more than 10 minutes. It will not giving any reaction. But if I am standing over here, I cannot stand more than 5 minutes on one place, isn't it? I am moving here and there, I am moving my hands and all that. This is nothing but the response to stimulus, isn't it? This is one of the characteristic of living thing, response to stimulus. They are not giving any response, no response. And very important characteristic is that every living being is having some specific growth span, some specific lifespan. They are dying after some specific lifespan, isn't it? There are some plants which are growing for more than 3 or 4 months. After 3 or 4 months, they are dying. There are some insects which are living more than which are living for 14 days, 15 days. After that their life cycle is over, isn't it? There are some plants which are living more than hundreds of years. The lifespan of human being is also averagely 60 years of the age, isn't it? So every living being is dying. Every living being is dying, but non-living being is not dying. It remaining as it is for the longer time. If you see the houses which are built by your ancestors, which are remaining as it is, and you are living into that houses, isn't it? There are many generations which are living into that houses. Means house is a non-living thing which is remaining as it is for the more time, but we are the living things, so our lifespan is decided. So this is one of the characteristic of living being, that they are dying. So that is nothing but the death. And non-living things are not having a specific lifespan, isn't it? So I think you have understood the basic difference between living things and non-living things. Let us summarize the difference between living things and non-living things, so that we can understand the life processes very easily. Okay. Now what you have to do, students, you have to recall your previous knowledge which you have studied in your 5th standard, 6th standard or 7th standard. So, so that it will be easy for you. Living things and non-living things, isn't it? First point, living things are having some cellular structure and non-living things are not having cellular structure, isn't it? No cell structure. Second, living things are required food material. Non-living things are not required the food material. Third one is that these living things are, by taking the food into their body, they are growing, isn't it? So growth is one of the characteristic of the living thing. And no growth, it will remain as it is in the nature, isn't it? Next characteristic is that they are respiring. Respiration means they are doing exchange of the gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide and other gases. In case of the non-living things, no respiration, no exchange of the gases, isn't it? Next is that they are having response to stimulus. They are giving response to stimulus. They are not giving any response. No response. Okay. Next, they are doing movement from one place to another place. There is no movement. And very last and important characteristic is what? Specific lifespan. No specific life. So these are some basic differences between living things and non-living things. You will think why the teacher is telling us that living things and non-living things which we have studied in our previous standards. But see, when we are going to study about the life processes, you must know the difference between living things and non-living things. Okay? Chalo, we'll go to the next point, that we have studied this difference between living things and non-living things, isn't it? We have studied the specific cellular structure and food material and all that. Now, if you observe, the plants are that as it is there at the one place. There is no any specific movement like the animals and the human beings. Then how we can say that they are growing? See, there is the movements of some tiny particle or some small particles, and because of that movement only the plants can grow. If you take a simple example, a very simple example, now there is a summer season. In the summer season the milk is left as it is outside of the fridge for more than 12 hours. After 12 hours you will find there is the formation of curd, or the milk is get rancid, or we can say milk is get converted into curd. How it will take place? This is because of the movements of the tiny particles or the microorganisms, isn't it? Now how this movement takes place? These movements are takes place by some biogeochemical processes, or we can say biochemical processes, which are going into the body of all the living things, isn't it? Now the processes, there are some processes where the breakdown of the energy takes place, or we can say breakdown of some particles takes place into complex substance to the simple substances, which are moving from one place to another place, and these all things are responsible for the growth of the living things, isn't it? Isn't it? So these are some, this is the group of process which are linked to each other, and when this all the processes are present into a certain body, then that body can be called as the living things. Which certain processes? The processes which are required to maintain the body of the thing, that are called as the life processes. So we'll actually start with our chapter number 6, which is life processes. Here, first point, we are going to study the definition. Okay, then we are going to study nutrition. Then we are going to study respiration. Then we are going to study circulation. Then we are going to study excretion. Okay. One by one we will study these points deeply into this chapter. First of all, we will see the definition of life processes. The processes which are important to maintain the life of the living thing, that are called as the life processes. Okay. Now what are the life processes? What are the life processes? What are the various things which are required to maintain our life? You yourself have to think. For 5 minutes, you yourself have to think. Suppose you are breathing. For 5 minutes, if your breathing will stop, what will happen with yourself? If you are sitting in the house for more than 1 day, 2 days or 3 days, and you are not eating anything, what will happen? You are not drinking the water, what will happen? So you have to think what is required to maintain your life, that are called as the life processes, isn't it? And that life processes are nothing but this: nutrition, respiration, circulation and excretion. These are all processes are related to each other. First of all, there is something which is required to do the movement of the body of every living being, and that is nothing but the energy. From where does we get the energy? Suppose I am having a 4-wheeler. I wanted to move from one place to another place. What I will do first? After starting my 4-wheeler, I will check the petrol or diesel or whatever fuel is there into that 4-wheeler. Then I will start that 4-wheeler. I will take that from one place to another place, isn't it? So something is required to move our body, or something is required to do the functioning of our body, though we are sitting in the on the one place, and that is nothing but the energy. From where does we get the energy? We get the energy from the food material. From where? We get the energy from the food material which we are eating. Not only we, the plants. From where does they get the energy? They get the energy by the process of photosynthesis, microorganisms. From where does they get the energy? They get the energy by absorption of the nutrients, isn't it? They get the energy by converting the complex substances into simple substances. That is nothing but from the food only, isn't it? Then next, food we are eating, but converting the nutrients into the form of energy which required, that is nothing but the ATP, adenosine triphosphate. I think in the 9th standard you have studied this point, isn't it? So that is nothing but the respiration. Conversion of the food material which you have taken into your body into the usable form of energy, that is called as the respiration, isn't it? Now, this respiration, in case of the microorganism, or you can say in case of the unicellular organism, the respiration is by the single cell. They are not having any specific structure into your body. I think you have studied in 9th standard about the cell. There you have studied the difference between prokaryotic cell and the eukaryotic cell. Prokaryotic cell is a very primitive cell, isn't it? All the functions of their body is carried out by the single cell. So here the respiration takes place by the single cell, that their cell surface is absorbing the energy or absorbing the oxygen, and they are diffusing that oxygen into into their body, isn't it? In case of multicellular organism, in case of multicellular, name itself suggests multicellular means what? Many cells. Means they are having specific cells for specific structure. So for the respiration also they are having the specific cell. Okay. So that specific cells are absorbing the oxygen and they are transferring that oxygen into each and every part of the body. Now here comes the question, how they are transferring the oxygen. They are transferring the oxygen by means of the circulation. Okay, here comes the point, that is called as the circulation. What do you mean by circulation, or what do you mean by transportation? Whatever nutrients which we have got from our food, that nutrients are get converted into usable form with the process of respiration. Then we are transferring, or in our body that are transferred from one part of body to another part of body by means of circulation or by means of transportation. Okay, so there is a special system for this process. There is a transportation system in the plants, there is a circulatory system in the animals or in the human being. Now let's take another view of that, or we can say what is the next step. Now here the nutrients are taken into the body, they are converted into usable form, they are transferred from one part to another part. But what is happening with the material which is not required for our body? Where does it go? It should remove out of the body of every living being. So this process is nothing but the excretion. What is this process? This is nothing but the excretion. Okay. So this excretion is also having the special system in the multicellular organism, but in the unicellular organism they are not having any special system for the excretion. So if you see for the life process, for maintaining of the life of every living being, for maintaining of the life of every living being. These all things are essential. If a single thing from this is not taken place, what will happen? The life will not easy, isn't it? If you see, there are many patients in our surrounding who are old age. There some problems are going on into their body. Some are having diabetes, some are having kidney problems, some are having heart problem. But if you observe, a single system of their body is affecting their all parts. Means what? The entire system or entire life of every living being is depending upon all these systems, and these are correlated with each other. They are depending upon each other. Take a simple example. Suppose we are going into the school, isn't it? If we wanted to run the school properly, what is required? All the system, or we can say all the various aspects of the school should run properly, isn't it? Means what? There should be the head minister or mistress, then there should be the students, teachers, then there should be the benches and whatever is required, physical things you require. If single thing from that is absent, then what will happen? The system of school is get damaged, isn't it? A system of school is not run properly. So means what? For running of our body system, life system, we require all these things in the proper manner. So what is the definition we have studied about the life process? The processes which are required to maintain the life of every living being, that are called as the life processes. What are that process? Nutrition, respiration, circulation and excretion. These are the four very basic